All right, welcome to Microsoft Excel lesson number 3. In this lesson, we're going to be working with large worksheets. We're going to be actually creating the worksheet that you see right on the screen right now for Manola department stores. We're also going to be doing some charting, and we're going to be looking at some what-if analyses, and so running some different scenarios with the software. So you'll notice that this is just going to be a 6-month financial projection sheet for this Manola department stores. We've got down here some assumptions that we are going to plug in for our projections, and then we're also going to create an expense chart. You'll notice right over here for that 6-month expense or projected expenses, and we're going to be looking at reordering sheets within the software. And so some of the things that we're going to focus on today, we're going to be formatting and using formatting numbers using format symbols. We're also going to be using the if function to perform logical tests. And I should clarify, one of the things that I mean when I say format numbers using format symbols is we are going to be looking at how you assign different formats to numbers within the software. As opposed to like clicking right here and changing the font color, we can write code going on in the background to apply specific color for specific ranges of numbers and things like that. So we'll get to do that in a little bit. We're also going to be using spark lines and spark graphs or spark charts. Those are these little things right over here. We're also going to be using the format painter. We're going to be changing chart types and styles. We're going to be using filters. We're going to be creating column charts, pie charts, things like that. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to be going on in this lesson. So let's go ahead and jump right on in. I'm going to close this example. I'm not going to save it because we didn't do anything to it. And let's go ahead and jump right in. So we're going to start with a blank workbook. And again, one of the important things that when you are working with Microsoft Excel is to really have an idea and know what information you want to depict with your spreadsheets and your charts. So like I said before, we are going to be doing a 6-month financial projection for this department store, and then we're going to be creating a column chart at the end of it. And so what we want to know is with this department store, with our financial projections, what are the things that we need to know? Again, these are not statistics that have already happened. We are not analyzing an end of the year or an end of the quarter or end of the month data. We're projecting out. So we need to know what our expenses will be and what our income will be. So projecting. And so there are specific things that we can know in advance. I mean, we can know things like what our salaries are typically going to be. We could know what our marketing costs might be. We can know what our facilities charges might be. And so all of these things that we kind of have a grasp on right now, that we can kind of anticipate that they won't change, or if they do change, it'll be minor changes. And so there's lots of assumptions that we can make when we're creating these charts. And so we're going to be using assumptions to create these projections. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to create our title and subtitle area like we do with all of this work. So I'm going to select cell A1. I'm actually going to zoom in a little bit right now so you can see what I'm doing. This is going to be a view that's too small ultimately because, again, this is going to be a large worksheet, so it's going to be quite expansive. But we're going to go ahead and in cell A1, we're going to enter the title, that Manola Department Stores, Inc., period. So that's our worksheet title. And then I'm going to navigate to cell A2, and we're going to type our subtitle, which is our 6-month financial projections. now we've got that. And again, like I said before, we always start as a default in the Microsoft Office theme, but we're going to go ahead and change our design theme in Excel. So we're going to come up to our page layout, and then in our themes group, we're going to adjust that themes option, and we're going to apply the slice theme. And again, the themes are alphabetical, and so you'll notice right down here, I don't see the slice theme, but slice is a very common theme, and so the common themes are going to be at the top in alphabetical order, and then after those common ones, they'll reset to do the less common ones in alphabetical order. So slice is actually going to be up here, the first column, third row. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to enter text to start the kind of the skeleton of this. So we're going to go ahead in cell B3, and we're going to click there because we're going to put some other information in this column A. Those are going to be our row headings. So B, C, D, E, F, those are going to be our column headings. So in B3, I'm going to type January. And then I'm going to hit my little enter, that little green check mark. So when I do that, it takes me out of edit mode, it sets the cell, and now I'm back into ready mode. All right, so with my insertion point in cell B3, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate my text at an angle. So I'm going to rotate it at a 75-degree angle. And what that's going to do, it's going to make the cells a little narrower while still maintaining the integrity of my cell value. So in our Home tab, I'm going to come to my alignment group. I've still got cell B3 selected, and then right up here we have our text rotation or orientation. You can see I can angle it counterclockwise, I can angle it clockwise, I can do it vertically, rotate it up, rotate it down, but I can also format that alignment to a specific angle. And so again, I can use these little navigation handles over here to rotate, or I can type the angle right here, but whatever way you want to do it, we're going to change this to a 75-degree angle. And so it's going to be almost to the top, which would be straight up, would be 90 degrees. But it's going to be that little notch next to 90 degrees. So with our rotation handle rotated to the 75-degree mark, I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And now we've rotated that text at a 75-degree angle. All right, so now we're going to continue. Again, this is our 6-month projection, so we're going to go January through June. Now, you could type all of those in there, but like we've noticed before, with spreadsheet software, there are a lot of patterns, sequences that are built into the software. So in this case, the software recognizes January as the beginning of the year. So if I come to this bottom right corner of cell B3, I can get that little crosshair as I hover over that fill handle, click and hold with my left mouse button, drag across to G, to column G, and release, and then it will automatically populate those other months for me. All right. So then I'm going to click on cell H3, and I am going to type total, and then my right arrow, and then you'll notice when I do that, it's automatically going to alter that text to match the adjacent text. And then the same thing with the next cell over, chart, and it's going to do that same thing. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to increase our column widths. So I rotated this text a little bit, but we're also going to adjust the column widths for these. So I'm going to bring my insertion pointer, my pointer, between columns A and B, up in the column headings up here. So A and B. and I'm going to change column A to a width of 38.5 points or 313 pixels. So there's a couple different ways I can do that. I can come up here, get this two-way arrow pointer between A and B, click and hold, and then you notice when I do that, it tells me that right now I'm at a width of 8.38 points or 72 pixels, which is 1 inch. I can navigate out, and again we're changing it to 38.5, so I can keep scrolling out to the right until I get to 38.5 and then release. Or I can just select column A, and then in my Home tab, cell group, choose the format option, and then column width, and type 38.5 right there. Now to me this is a much easier way of doing it, just because I drink a lot of coffee and my hands get really shaky. So when I'm dragging these cells out, I'm really jittery, so it's hard for me to stop at a specific number. But, so there's multiple ways we can do that. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to select columns B through G, and we're going to change these to 15 wide. And again, you can click and hold, drag to 15, and release, or Home tab, format, cells, width, and type 15, and OK. Either way works. All right, so now I'm going to continue over to cell H. Cell H, we're going to make that 18 wide, and again, you can do it whatever way is easiest for you. And then column I, we are going to leave that one as it is for now. That's going to be our chart. So now we're going to go ahead, we're going to come back to the beginning of this, column A in A4, and we are going to start to enter our row titles. So we've just entered our column titles, now we're going to enter our row titles. And so these are going to be our revenues and our expenses. So in cell A4, we're going to enter revenue. And I'm going to hit my enter key. And then the next cell down, cell A5, cost of goods sold. And then our gross margin. And then enter twice to cell 8. All right, now and again, we've got our revenues, which are going to be one value, so the money we have coming in, and then our cost of those goods. And so once we subtract our cost from our revenues, we'll have our gross margin, which will be our gross profit. Continuing on in cell A8, we're going to enter the text expenses and then enter. And now we're going to enter all of those expenditures that we have on a regular basis. And so those are going to be things like bonus, salary, site rental, marketing, miscellaneous, total expenses, and this is our total column, and then enter twice, and then in cell A16 we are going to type operating income. All right, and again, so we've got our revenue and we've got our expenses here. And so what we're going to do with this is we want to offset those subcategories a little bit. So our revenue and our cost of goods sold are a little bit different. So I'm going to go to the cost of goods sold, and I'm going to indent it by just one click. So where it says our Home tab alignment group increase indent, I'm going to click one time And it's going to bring that text in just a little bit from that left margin of the cell to kind of offset it. So we know that this is a little bit different category. And we're going to do the same thing with that bonus, with that expense section. We're going to select A9 through A13. And again, do the same thing, just offset it by increasing the indent just a little. And that's going to give us an idea that we've got our revenue and then our costs. And then we've got all these subcategories under expenses. And then our total expenses are going to be right there. So our revenue and gross margin, revenue is all the money we've got coming in. The margin is what we actually will be making from that the sale of those items. And then our expense total is going to be the total of all of those fixed expenditures. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to copy this range right here from A9 through A13, because with these bonus, salary, site rental, etc., these are going to be, we're going to project that these are going to be fixed costs based on a percentage of what our sales are. And so we are going to make those, we're going to put those projections down here below. So we're going to select A9 through A13. We're going to copy that range. So you can either go up to your Home tab, Clipboard Group, click Copy, or right-click and copy that way as well. Either way works. And so once we've got that, we're going to come down to cell A18. We're going to type the text, what-if assumptions, and then enter. Oopsie, and let me go back. Why won't it let me paste that there? All right, then let's go back and select that range, A9 through A13, copy it, and then paste it in cell A19. All right. And so I'm going to hit my escape key once, and that's just going to remove that marquee that was kind of floating around. Whenever we select some text and we do like a copy, you'll notice we've got those little dotted lines rolling around it. Some people call those marching ants. The technical term is marquee. But in order to stop that, you can just click that escape key, and it will stop those little marching ants or marquee. All right, so now we've got the kind of the format of this worksheet started. Now we can go ahead and we can start to enter a little more information. So in our expense category, we're going to have a couple other rows in here that we need to add. So I'm going to come down to the heading of row 20, where it's the salary line. And I'm going to insert a row. And so when you do an insert, it's going to insert the row at that point. So it's going to insert a row in row 20 and shift everything else down. So I'm going to come up to my Home tab, Cell Group. I'm just going to click Insert. Now, since I have a row selected, it's automatically going to insert the row. But the other way I could do it is Insert and then choose a sheet row. And then that title for this one is going to be Sales Revenue for Bonus. And you'll notice that when I type that, let's see, Sales Revenue for Bonus. When I type it, it automatically mirrors the formatting above it and below it. So it automatically indents that by one indentation. All right, I'm also going to add another line at the top. So at 19, I'm going to right-click on 19, and I am going to insert a row. Now when I do that, you'll notice I get this little Format Painter brush that opens up. Now it's doing that because you'll notice that in row 18, I have text aligned to the left of the cell. In the new cell 20, which was formerly 19, I have text that's indented by one click. Now this wants to know how I want to format this text. If I click that little arrow, does it say, do I want to format it the same as I have above, format the same as I have below, or just clear all the formatting altogether? I actually want to format it the way it is below in row 20, so I'm going to click Format Same as Below, and that way it's going to indent that automatically, and this text is margin. All right, so now we've got this started. So let's go ahead and we're going to do a file save as, because our next step is going to be to enter our what-if assumptions and some of our sales, some of our data. So before we do that, we want to save this format of our worksheet so we've got it intact. So I'm just going to either click on that little save icon up here or File Save As. And again, like I've done before, I'm going to navigate to my desktop where I keep all the files that we work on together. And then my desktop, I have it under Try 3 Classes. This is Microsoft Excel. And this project is called Manola, and I'm just going to call it Workbook, because we're going to save it in a little bit with a new name. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to enter some of this kind of the skeleton data here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come down to that section 8A18 through 25, and we're going to enter these what-if assumptions. All right, so our what-if assumptions are all based basically on our revenue. And so our margin is going to be a percentage of the revenue. So our margin is going to be 81.25%, which means that our goods are going to cost us just about 19%, 18.75%, or 88.75%. Yeah, 88.75%. Right, so the what-if assumptions, and we're going to type these numbers how we want them to appear. So we're going to include the formatting already. So we're going to type 81.25%. Make sure you hit that percent key and then enter. All right, our bonus is going to be 5,000.00. So our bonus will be $5,000. And then our sales revenue for bonus is going to be 1.25 million. So 1,250,000.00, enter. All right, and so what that means is if our sales threshold, if our revenue meets or exceeds $1,250,000, so if our sales is 1.25 million, then we'll earn a bonus of $5,000. But if it does not reach that threshold, we don't earn that bonus. So we're going to create an argument a little bit that's going to help us add that bonus based on those assumptions. All right, our salary is based on 20%, so 20.00% sign. And that's of our revenue. Our site rental is 10%. Our marketing is 3.50%. And finally, miscellaneous expenses are going to be 5.00%. All right, now we're going to scroll up to the top, and then in cell B4, we are going to enter what our expense projections are. or excuse me, our revenue projections. So from January through June. So going across the top in row 4, B, C, D, E, F, G, we're going to enter the numbers 1470500.00. Oopsie, and let's do that with 1,470,500.00. Let's do it that way. All right, and again, we're just applying the formatting here because if we don't, it's going to give it as just a generic formatting. Our February revenue is 1,405,000.00. Our March revenue 1,186,600.00. The next one over, April, is 1,498,000.00. May will be 1,102,900.00. And finally, June is 1,145,300.00. All right. So again, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so you can see all of those numbers. Again, January is $1,470,500. February, $1,405,000. March, $1,186,600. April, $1,498,000. May, $1,102,900. And then June, $1,145,300. Now you'll notice that remember that threshold we set for our bonus to be eligible for the bonus is 1.25 million. Now January and February and April we meet that threshold. However, March, May, and June we do not. So we can expect that in those months where we meet or surpass 1.25 million in sales, we will have a value of 5,000 in that bonus category. In the other ones we will not. All right. So now we're going to go over to cell H4 where we have our total, and I'm just going to click on the auto sum button. So just click on it, and when you do that, it's automatically going to recognize that we have a series of numbers to the immediate left going all the way to column B. So B4 through G4, it recognizes that range. I'm going to say yes, that's the range I want, enter, and it's going to populate that with that value. So you should get $7,808,300 in that box H4. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to enter a system date into our document. Now, the system date is going to be like the date stamp of the time that we've created this workbook. And so this is just it's going to be like a default date that's going to just let people know when it was created. So it's actually going to like stamp the date right on it. So to do that, we're going to come to cell H1, and then we're going to add the now function. So there's a couple different ways we can do this. So we can do equals, and equals is always going to start a formula or a function. And if we start to type now, you'll notice that we have a function called now right there. Another way we can do it is we can come up to our function argument, so insert function, and then type the word now. So search for a function now. You can say go, and then it's going to show us recommended ones. There's now, and we can say OK. Or we can come up here and say equals now, and it's going to show it right up there. So there's lots of different ways that we can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and do now. And then it's going to bring up equals now, open parentheses. I'm going to close that parentheses and hit enter. And then when I do that, you'll see that it stamps the date and time right there. So now I'm going to format that because I don't necessarily need that time stamp on it, but I do want the date stamp. So I'm going to select cell H1, and then in my Home tab number group, I'm going to click the little launcher, and then click on the date category. In the date category we want is the 4-digit year, followed by the 2-digit month, 2-digit day. So the 2012-03-14. And then OK. And then it's going to populate that right in there. All right, so now I'm going to click between H and I, so the border between cells H and I, double click. And when I do the double click, it automatically resizes that column to adjust to the widest piece of text. All right, so now I'm going to do another save, but I'm going to save it as, because we've got the blank one here. I'm going to do a file, save as. I'm going to keep it in that same location. So on my desktop, try 3 classes, Microsoft Excel. And I'm going to call this Manola Final. And then save. So now I've got that original one without the numbers in there. And then I've resaved it with our progress up to the current point. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to populate our table right over here using our assumptions. Now the thing to remember that when we're using these assumptions are all, we're going to use the assumptions for every month. However, our assumptions are in one specific cell or one column. So our assumptions are all in column B, B19 through B25. Now remember, when we copy formulas in Excel, or when we fill formulas in Excel, we fill it in a very organized and orderly way. And so we do it by default in what's called relativity, so relative reference. So if I was creating, for example, let's do column B to start. So our cost of goods sold for January is based on our margin of 81.25%. So our margin is 81.25, so our cost is the opposite of 81.25. It's going to be 18.75. So what we have to do is we have to create that formula. So equals, and then B4, click in cell B4, so our revenue, times, and then we're going to do open parentheses, because again, it's 100% minus 81.25%. But we're going to do 1 minus, and then that value is in cell B19. We're just going to click in cell B19, and then close the parentheses and enter. All right, so now that value is going to return as 275,718.75. So our cost of goods is going to be just under 20% of the revenue. So that's what that cost of goods is going to be. Now, we're going to calculate the gross margin is going to be equals our revenue less, so minus our cost of goods. Enter. So now we've got 1.194 million. Okay, so now what we can do is we can use these formulas here to fill them across. But watch what will happen when we do this. So we're going to fill that formula across to column H, and then when we do it, we get these weird numbers. Like, okay, why is our cost of goods equivalent to our revenue? And then our gross margin is 0. So if our cost of goods is 81.25% or 18.75% of our revenue, how come it's not displaying that? Well, you'll notice that when we went to column B, that number was already in column B. And so when we looked at this problem, we did B4 times 1 minus B19. Now when we copy that formula one cell to the right to column C, if we click in cell C5, you'll notice that now it says equals C4 times 1 minus C19. All right, so this one is B4 minus 1 minus B9 times 1 minus B19. This one is C4 times 1 minus C19. This one is D4 minus or times 1 minus D19, and so on. And so when we did that, we were in column B, and we were using the data in column B to create this formula. When we filled it across, we filled what's called a relative reference. So the program assumes that, oh, if we copy our formula one cell to the right, we want to use the data one cell to the right, which we do partially, but we don't want, but we need, so we're going to multiply C4 times that 81.25%. But that's not in cell C19, it's in cell B19. So what we need to do is every time we either have to do C4 times 1 minus and then click B19 and keeps doing that formula over and over again, so typing it new every time, or if we come to cell B5 and then click in cell B where it says B19 in that reference right there, I'm going to use my function key. So I'm going to use my function 4 key, not my F4 cell. My function 4 key is going to be at the top of my keyboard. On mine, it's immediately above the 4 and $ key. But I'm going to click my F4 key on the keyboard. And when I do that, it puts a $ in front of the B and a $ in front of the number 19. So $sign in front of the row, a $sign in front of the column. Now what that's doing is it's telling this formula that if or when I copy this, I only want to look at cell B19. I don't want to use relative references. I don't want to go C19, D19, E19, F19, or if I'm going down a row, B19, B20, B21, B22. I don't want to do it that way. I only want to look at one specific cell to reference. I'm going to hit enter. Again, it didn't do anything here. It kept the number the same, but now when I copy this one over, ta-da! Now it's, if you look at it, it's 1 minus $B, $19, D4 times 1 minus $B19, E4 times 1 minus $B, $19. So it's doing it that same way. But that's the difference between a relative reference, and this is called an absolute reference. The absolute reference looks at one specific cell absolutely. Relative reference will copy it based on that pattern that you're using. So when we fill column by column to the right. We're going to move column by column to the right. When we fill or copy column or row to row, it's going to use the row to row pattern. All right, so we've got that. And so the next thing we're going to look at is we're going to create an if logical argument. And again, so the next one down, our bonus will be determined if our revenue meets or exceeds 1,250,000. So we're going to have to create a formula or a logical argument that's going to do that. So we're going to click in cell B9, and then we're going to type equals if. Now when I do that, it opens up the little function arguments right here. I'm going to double click on if, and it's going to start that formula for me. So there's two different ways I can do this. I can enter the cell using my keyboard, or I could also come up to my function argument, click on that, and it's going to open up a dialog box. And so a lot of times when you're first learning the software, it's going to be much easier to open one of these function argument dialog boxes, because this is going to kind of walk you through step by step. So you'll notice that with this if, we have a test, our logical test. If I click here, it tells me this checks whether a condition is met and returns one value if true and another if false. The logical test is any value or expression that can be evaluated to true or false. All right? So our logical test. So what's our test? Again, we want to determine if our revenue is greater than 1.25 million. So our logical test, therefore, will be if our revenue, in this case, it's B4. So if our logical test is if B4, I'm just going to click in B4. I'm going to say greater than, so shift period, greater than, equal to, and then I don't have to type the 1.25 million because I've got it here already. I'm just going to click in cell B21, but then you'll remember we're going to copy this formula to all these other columns, so we need to click F4 again to add that absolute reference. So the logical test is going to be B4 greater than equal to $B $21. And you can see this argument is true because our revenue is 1.47 million. We're going to click down the next one. So value if true is going to be 5,000, but we want to use the value right here. We're going to click in cell B20, hit the F4 key because when we copy it over, we want to keep that value true. And then finally our value if false, we're going to hit 0 because if we don't meet that threshold, we don't get the bonus. So the logical test B4 greater than equal to $B $21, value if true, $B $20, value if false is 0, and we can say OK. And then here we see that that value was met. 1.47 exceeds 1.25, therefore we got the bonus. All right, so the next we're going to calculate our salary. And again, our salary is based on a 20% of our revenue. So in cell B10, we're going to type equals, I'm going to click in cell B4, times, and then click in cell B22, and then hit the F4 key again, the function 4 key, and then enter. And again, so our site rental, marketing, and miscellaneous is going to be the same formula B4, our revenue, times those cells going down, B20 or B23, 24, etc. So we're just going to go ahead and type. We can go ahead and type it in there directly as well. So the site rental, we can type equals B4 times $B $, what was that, 23? 23, yep. Enter. Our marketing expense was equals B4 times $B $24. And then our miscellaneous is equals B4 times $B $25. Enter. All right, and then our total expenses, I'm going to click my auto sum button. It's going to automatically calculate those numbers immediately above it. B9 through B13, enter. And there we are. Now our operating income, the next line down, is going to be the same as equals our gross margin minus our total expenses. Enter. Now we know we've got formulas in these. If we click on them, we'll see the formula bar will show us our formula. But if we want to see what those formulas are, we can also show our formulas right on our screen by hitting the accent mark and control key simultaneously. So the accent mark is the key to the immediate left of the number 1 on your keyboard. So I'm going to do control accent, and then there you see there's all the formulas that we've just added in here. And then I'm going to control accent key again, and it's going to eliminate those. All right. So now let's go ahead and we're going to calculate our rows. So I'm going to take my B9 through B14 and I'm going to fill that across to column H, where our total is. All right. So once we've got that, let's go ahead and do a save again. I'm just going to do a quick save. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to create our little sparkline charts. So we can see right here, we've got these little charts. And we're going to create our sparkline based on our monthly totals, not our total. So I'm going to click in cell I4. Right, in cell I4, I'm going to do an insert, and then in the sparkline area over here, I'm going to click on sparkline or line. The data range it wants, I'm going to click on this little collapse button, and I'm going to choose the range B4 through G4. So B4 through G4, and I'm going to expand it again, so click that little button, and then it says where do you want the line to be placed? $I, $4, that's where I want it. OK. And then if I come back over, bloop, there it is. So with that spark line in there, I'm going to go ahead and I am going to fill it right on down. And so the one thing that you'll notice is that this sparkline chart is very similar. And really one of the few differences is that some of these months we have a $5,000 expenditure, some of them we have 0. But you'll notice that it's kind of up, up, down, down for everything. And again, that is to be expected because all of our numbers are based on projections. So our projections are going to be static, right? Our margin is going to be 18.75 of our revenue. Our salary is going to be 20% of our revenue. Our site rental, 10% of our revenue. So all of those numbers are going to be static. And since they're static, this chart should look basically the same for everything. So it's going to be a little bit boring, but that's our spark lines. Now with that selected, we can also change what kind of chart or data we want. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to alter. So I'm going to choose one of these. So I'm going to choose the blue sparkline style dark 2. You can choose it whatever you want. But I'm also going to choose the column style. So that column chart. All right. Okay, so now we've got that done a little bit. So now let's go ahead and we're going to assign some formats to non-adjacent ranges. And again, the non-adjacent ranges, we're going to assign a specific style of formatting to our revenue, gross margin, our bonus, total expense, and operating income. Whoop! Let's copy that operating income over as well. And let's copy this one down to the operating income. All right, and again, so we're going to select B4 through H4. I'm going to hold my control key, B6 through H6. And then I'm going to let go of my control key and my mouse button for just a second because I'm going to scroll. And if I held my control key down and scrolled, it would zoom in and out. And that's not what I want to do right here. All right. So when I scroll to the area where I can see the next set of numbers, I'm going to hold control down again before I do anything else. Then I'm going to click B9 through H9, B14 through H14, B16 through H16. All right, and with those non-adjacent range selected, I'm going to go to my Home tab, my number launcher. I'm going to choose the currency formatting, 2 decimal places, and the $ symbol. And the negative will be in parentheses and red. And then OK. All right, then I'm going to select my non-adjacent range, B5 through H5, and then hold Control, B10 through H13. And this, I'm going to go to that number launcher again. I'm going to apply the currency formatting with 2 decimal places, no symbol, and again click on the negative number in parentheses with red text, and then OK. right, I'm going to save my work again. And so now that we've got that, so basically our numbers are complete. Now we're going to do some final formatting on the sheet. So I'm going to click on cell A1 where we've got that Manola department stores. And then I'm going to click the column A heading. And I'm going to click bold. So I'm going to bold the text in column A. All right, and then I'm going to click in just A1. I'm going to increase the font size to 28. In cell A2, I'm going to increase the font size to 16. I'm going to select the range A1 and A2. I'm going to change the fill color. So here's our fill color. I'm going to change it to the dark blue text 2. So dark blue text 2, lighter 80%. And I'm going to change the font color to dark blue accent 1. All right. And then I'm going to click in cell A1 and copy that formatting across to G, and then I can do the same thing, or I can click B2 through I2 and click that little paint can, and I'm going to do the same thing with H1 and I1. Click on that little paint can to copy the formatting into those cells as well. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select A3 through I3. I'm going to apply the heading 3 style, so our home tab, styles group. I'm going to choose the heading 3. Then I'm going to select the non-adjacent ranges, A6 through H6. And then hold the control key down. And then A14 through H14 and A16 through H16. In that range, I'm going to apply the total style. And then in cell A4, up where we have revenue, I'm going to click that little fill paint can to apply that same dark blue text 2 lighter 80% cell color. All right, and then I'm going to click the font color to apply that font color to that one as well. Then I'm going to, with that selected, I'm going to click in my Home tab Format Painter or Clipboard group and click on the Format Painter 2 times. Click, click. And then I'm going to come down to cell A6, click once, and then come down to Operating Income in row 16, and I'm just going to click and hold, drag across to cell H16, and release. and then click my Format Painter button again to turn off the Format Painter. All right, now I'm going to come to cell A18. I'm going to change the font from this What If Assumptions to 9. So I'm just going to click this little decrease font button 2 times to change it to 9. I'm also going to italicize it and underline it. So it'll be bold, italics, and underlined. I'm going to select the range A19 through B25. Change that to 9 point. So click that little down pointing arrow 2 times, decrease font. And then I'm going to select the range A18 through B25 and then click on the little paint can to apply that fill color. And then click on the font color button to apply that blue font color. And then I'm going to deselect that range. And then you'll notice that when I have this smaller, I get all those little pound signs, which means that the text, the cell width is too narrow. But if I expand it to see it full size, then the number shows up. So I'm going to go ahead and click my little Save button. All right, so now we're almost done with this. So the last thing we're going to do is we're going to add a clustered column chart to this. All right, and so this, what happened there? That should have the title or the total row style. Oh, you know what I didn't do? It's the total row, but I did not, for some reason, it didn't apply the currency formatting. So that one's going to be currency, 2 decimal there. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I don't know why that happened. I thought we applied the currency formatting to row 16, but all right, anyway. So we're going to go ahead and select the range A3 through G3. And then I'm going to scroll down and hold my Control key and select the range A9 through G13. And then release. And then I'm going to do my insert. And then over in my charts, I'm going to click on this column chart. And I'm going to choose a 2D clustered column chart. All right, so now with this column chart selected, we're going to move it to a new sheet. So our Chart Tools Design tab is going to be open. Over on the far right, we have this location group. I'm going to click Move Chart, and I'm going to move it to a new sheet within the same workbook. And I'm going to call it Expense Chart Sheet. So instead of Chart 1, Expense Chart Sheet. Okay, and then there we go. It's going to move it to this new sheet. All right, now that we've got it moved, I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see what I'm doing here. We're going to get a bit of chart title. So I'm going to click in that little box that says chart title, and we're going to call it 6th month projected expenses. So 6 hyphen month projected expenses. And again, these are just our expenses, no revenue here. All right, I'm going to select all that text again, or so I can either click and drag through it all, or I can click, get that 4-way pointing arrow pointer, click over that perimeter and turn that whole thing into a solid line instead of a dotted line. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to my Home tab. I'm going to bold and underline that and also change it to the dark blue accent 1 color. I'm going to click on this, our vertical axis bar, and I'm going to click the little font color to that as well. And then same thing down here. We're also going to add data labels to this. So right over here in our chart elements, that little plus sign, we're going to come over to the data labels. We're going to click on that. And if we do the data labels, it's going to put the values right there. Now you'll notice that we have a couple items in here. So we've got that payroll item, and we've our salary item and our bonus item. We don't necessarily want to include that in this chart at the moment, so what we're going to do is we're going to filter it out. So I'm going to click on my chart filter, and I'm going to eliminate my bonus and salary categories for now, apply, and then now we get a look at what our site rental, marketing, and miscellaneous expenses are without those other ones. All right, so we can also click with that selected again. We can also select our design elements. We can change the kind of style of our chart, or we can just select, if I go to my Chart Tools Format tab, if we want to change one specific value. So miscellaneous, let's say. We click on miscellaneous, the column for miscellaneous, and we want to change that shape fill from that orange color to like the standard orange. We can see it'll change that one color as well as its corresponding legend marker. All right, but we can also, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change mine. I like the chart style 14, I typically will prefer. So I'm going to choose that. If you want to choose a different one, go ahead and choose a different one. Take a look at all these different options, see what's there. Like I said, I'm choosing chart style 14. And then I'm going to go up to my chart elements, and I am going to remove my data labels, and I'm going to clear my filter. So I'm going to bring in my bonus and salary back into here. Come on, apply that. And why is it still showing me my data labels? I don't want the data labels. There we go. Now our data labels are gone. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and we've got this expense chart sheet. I'm going to do a right click on the expense chart sheet tab. I'm going to change the color of that tab to this blue, dark blue accent 1. And then I'm going to double click on the sheet 1. We're going to call this one 6-month financial projection. So 6-month financial projection. And then enter. I'm going to right click, tab color, and this, whoopsie, come on, tab color. I'm going to change this one to that light turquoise background 2. Or actually, let's do that dark blue text one, lighter 80% to match the shading. And then we're going to click and hold with our left mouse button on this 6-month financial projection, drag it over in front of the expense chart and release. And then we've just reordered those. All right. So that project is now complete. So if I zoom out a little bit, you can see I'll double click on that to kind of maximize it. But so now we can see our financial projection as well as our expense chart sheet. I'm going to come back, go to cell A1, save the work, and that project is finished.